Most of us know that a creature with first strike gets to deal its combat damage before a creature without first strike, and that a creature with double strike gets to deal first strike damage and regular damage. But what happens when we go ahead and let all creatures with first strike deal their combat damage, and then before we deal the regular damage, we give that creature first strike? Will that creature have missed its opportunity to deal first strike damage during the first strike step? Because we all know that creatures with first strike don't deal damage in the regular damage step. Now that the first strike step has passed, does this end up not being able to deal any damage? What really goes behind the scenes with first strike? There are 5 steps in a single combat. But if there are any creatures with first strike or double strike that are involved with combat, then we actually add another combat damage step. This means that we go through beginning of combat, declaring attacks, and blocking like normal. And then as we're going to combat damage, if there's any creatures with first strike or double strike that are attacking or blocking, then we have those creatures deal their combat damage first. Pretty much we have an extra combat damage step just like any other, except only the VIPs can assign and deal their combat damage in this step. Then once damage is assigned, all those creatures deal damage simultaneously. And then players have the opportunity to cast spells or abilities. But after that step, instead of going to end of combat, we have another combat damage step, and that just works just like how we did before. Only this time, creatures that didn't have first strike or double strike at the start of the first combat get to deal their combat damage now. So because Grizzly Bears didn't have first strike at the start of the first combat damage step, it will still be allowed to deal its combat damage in the regular combat damage step.